Part 94. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 934. No, there is still a difference between worshipping the big banyan tree in the previous life and worshipping the red stone here. Gray regained his composure and finally reacted. In the previous life, no matter how much you burned incense or kowtowed, there would be no response. At most, the bark of the big banyan tree would be blackened by smoke, and the particularly unlucky ones would be burned. And here, in this world, faith and worship will bring real power. So, after being worshipped and enshrined by the Red Stone tribe for so many years, this huge red stone really has power? Can you answer the prayers of the indigenous people? Can give some? Does it look like something magical? Gretel belatedly activated the detection magic that was always in his body. For a moment, the vision of meditation shone brightly, and the red stone, which was as tall as two people, shone brightly in his eyes. Quite strong, but not too strong. Corresponding to magic items and monsters, maybe at level 9 to 10? Gretel silently thought that if it were a moving monster, it would be able to protect the tribe, but a stone? What can a stone do? What magic can you give feedback on? Even if this thing jumps up and fights him, it may not be able to defeat him. No, if a stone jumps up and fights him, it is in FantasyWorld mode, and it is pressed directly down, right? He turned his attention to the red stone witch priest. In the sound of singing, the sound of beating leather drums, and the sound of clapping hands and stamping feet, tiny spots of light spread around. Judging from the strength of the detection magic feedback, this magic is still less than level 2 even if it lasts to death, but it is released in a wider range and covers more people. Judging from the type of spell, it seems that it is not entirely a healing spell. Gretel pricked up his ears and listened. He secretly attached an electrocardiogram spell to a native without revealing the light curtain. The data received by the meditation core told him that the heart rate of the patient lying on the ground had increased. Moreover, judging from the waveform, the intensity has also been strengthened. It also adds defense, Cyrilla said softly in the spiritual connection. Her voice was a little incredible. What's the use of defense at this time? Is it because this thing is a big rock, so it only knows how to defend it? Even when she first learned the spell, she would not mix the healing spell with the feather falling spell and throw them out at the same time. Greet almost laughed. This totem spirit, which was naturally generated through years of prayer and worship, probably doesn't have Cyrilla's IQ. Maybe, it was just this thing that inspired it. But well, smallpox first damages the epidermis and mucous membranes. As long as these two can survive, the probability of subsequent bacterial infection is small. From this perspective, the divine magic inspired by the red stone witch sacrifice, divine-like magic cannot be miscalculated. The crazy singing and dancing lasted for about half an hour before gradually stopping. The red stone witch priest was sweating profusely, and the paint on his face was washed away in streaks. He panted and came over to thank you, the powerful shaman who came from afar. My ability is limited and I can only do this. If it weren't for you, we would have lost dozens of our compatriots. I guess you will lose dozens of compatriots. Gretel complained silently. Just because of the living conditions of your tribe with an average living area of 3 square meters per person, the way healthy people take care of infectious patients, and the employment of these furs that are unlikely to be replaced, smallpox will no longer spread, and I will take your surname. By the way, do these natives have surnames? Forget it, let's do something good. Greet patted the space bag with a smile and took out a tube of cowpox. Do you want everyone in your tribe to be free from this disease? I have a way. While speaking the lotus flower, he quietly opened Charming Humans. Go around, work hard, and you must convince this great wizard. It's okay if you can't see it, but if you see it but don't reach out, You can't bear it. After much persuasion and spells, the entire tribe was finally inoculated with cowpox. Greet breathed a huge sigh of relief, and when the Great Witch Festival warmly invited him to stay the night, he tried his best to shirk. I have a place to live. I have a tent. I brought it with me. I won't disturb your tribe to take care of the patients. By the way, during this period, it's best not to go to other tribes or let outsiders in, otherwise the terrible devil will continue to fly into the distance. After much talking, I was able to camp outside the Redstone tribe. When others entered the mage's hut, Greed hugged Mr. Trochka, quietly climbed onto the redstone, and lay down on his back. Slowly gather your mind, fall into meditation, and try to communicate with this redstone. Hey, how long have you been here? How many people are around? What are your abilities? Have you seen this black cat in my arms? Unfortunately, after communicating for a long time, I didn't get much feedback. In the meditation environment, the big stone reflected in it is a mess of disorderly lines, shrouded in blurry light spots undergoing Brownian motion. Poke it, move it, poke it in the other direction, move it in the other direction. The overall consciousness cannot be said to be absent, it is not much better than that of a paramecium. Greet communicated for a long time, then opened his eyes and sat up from the top of the red stone. How come this totem god, let's call him totem god, is still such a piece of shit when he has already reached level 9 or 10? If he is cruel, he will cut the stone into pieces and dig out the core. No wonder Tapros suggested that he go to the New World for a good walk and see those primitive gods and primitive beliefs. Those gods may be a big tree, a stone, a beast. This kind of thing, the weaker one is probably at the level he saw, the stronger one, how powerful will it be? Gretel couldn't help but look to the far west, how powerful a totem beast or totem god could he encounter along the way? Level 13? Level 15? Level 18? Or legendary level or demigod level? There must be some. In order to cope with the year without summer, the teacher killed a demigod level totem god, and also killed a group of wild beasts, he just didn't know if he could touch it. With such a totem god, how powerful can their priests be able to unleash their magic? If they take action on their own, some of them are probably capable of taking action, such as protecting the sacred beasts of a large tribe. How strong can they be? Brother Lin, what kind of tribe is he trapped in now? Did a high-level totem god take action to trap him? Mr. Trochka will tear off part of Mr. Trochka's existence. Could it be that he is such a high-level god? The plague girl is approaching in the stone palace on the plateau. The high priest wearing a high obsidian crown held a long staff and his eyes were dark. It is eroding my lord's territory. We need to do something to strengthen my lord's power, Nilda. The golden priestess stepped out and bowed her head. The quarter-end sprint begins again. The goal of this sprint is to save 1,000 starting monthly tickets from yesterday to the end of the month. As long as you save enough, 2 more chapters will be added. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @Rottweilly for the 500 starting coin reward. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 935. What does the totem god of this new world look like? Greet meditated next to the red stone for an hour and slept well, but still couldn't figure it out. So early the next morning, when the Redstone Witch Festival wanted to send a guide to see them off, Greet rejected the guide, but accepted the token representing a friend. As long as there are no detours or delays in the journey, he is willing to walk and see along the way to the west coast. See more, be more knowledgeable, and be more sure if you need to fight when you go to save Brother Lin N. To the east from the Redstone tribe is the White Birch tribe. The totem god of this tribe is a white birch tree, or, in other words, a white birch forest. They worshipped it, performed rituals for it, peeled its bark, and dug holes in the tree to drink birch sap. What they are best at is making canoes from birch trees. Every adult man must own a canoe of his own to be eligible to start a family. Although this tribe is also troubled by infectious diseases, the situation is much better than that of the Redstone tribe. Greed saw that when they were praying in the birch forest, the leaves of the birch leaves were shaking, and the response was filled with the familiar flavor of the power of nature. Well, as expected, different totem gods have different essences, so can they induce different powers. Greed carefully savored the magic inspired by the birch tree, and deeply felt that many of the magics of the god of nature order might have similar origins. Well, the difference may be that the nature god order worships oak trees, so the nature of the power is a little different. After all, oak trees are thick, strong, and painful to hit. In Gretel's hand, the oak staff that he had been holding in a pretense suddenly broke out of his hand, jumped up, and banged on his forehead. Ouch! Greed held his forehead and cried. Since level 9, this oak staff, this living oak tree has transmitted more and more knowledge to him. Not only does it have the oak tree from which it was born, but also the inheritance that has been condensed there. Greed suspected that so many oak trees in the inheritance land of Iolan had packaged relevant content for it, allowing it to find every opportunity to teach its new master at any time. The problem is that the oak staff is getting worse and worse. If something goes wrong, you can release a few tree roots, support the trunk and jump high to give yourself a try. It has the shape of a stick, with a hard trunk and rough bark. It will really hurt if you hit someone. You've changed. When you were just born, you were green and tender, and you had a little oak stick that fit perfectly in your hand. Of course, despite crying out in pain, Greed still performed his duties as a doctor very well: removal of diseases, vaccination of cowpox, and popularization of knowledge about infectious diseases. The White Birch tribe is larger than the Redstone tribe, and there are many more seriously ill patients. Gretel almost used up all his magic, and even Appa came to help. Silver Moon Deer was covered in sparkling white light. When he walked in slowly, even the seriously ill patient lying on the ground got up with all his strength, and then put his forehead on the ground. Gretel was really shocked. Then, when he came to the next tribe with the token of friend from the White Birch tribe, he understood instantly. The next tribe is the Reindeer tribe. In addition to growing corn, pumpkins, and beans, they also raise a large herd of deer as a source of meat and fur. So, do the White Birch tribe think that he brought the Reindeer tribe's sacred deer to help them? Gretel soon knew that this idea was wrong. The Reindeer tribe warmly received them and asked them for help. Healers are really invincible during a pandemic. After Greet used the healing spell, he was invited by the Reindeer tribe to participate in their ceremony. Go hear the tribal leader and the great witch priest, who was wearing a deerskin robe, wearing at least 9 forked antlers, and a long string of white shells hanging on his chest, warmly invited everyone to follow them. Appa pawed nervously, turned his head, and ran away. In Detect Magic's field of vision, those white shells had almost no light, much worse than the gems and amber next to them. Considering the distance between this place and the coast, Greet can probably understand that these shells are a rare treasure used to show his wealth and status. They walked through the woodland with torches and entered a deep valley. At the mouth of the valley, tall tree trunks intersect with each other to form a fence over 3 people high. This is where we raise reindeer. The Great Witch Festival of the Reindeer tribe introduced enthusiastically. Every winter, we would lay down hay here, and sometimes add some salt, and the reindeer would come over and eat by themselves. Then we would close the door and we would have a herd of deer that could eat until summer. They kept walking along the mountain wall. At the end, the valley suddenly turned a small corner, and a small pasture appeared. Sarala said yet in surprise. From the gap in the valley, a warm spring flows out and meanders into the creek. The grassland watered by spring water was actually a little green at this time. On the grass, there was a stag with exceptionally clean fur and a particularly toned body. "This is the incarnation of our dear God," the great wizard said loudly. "Every year, we select the most beautiful stag from the herd and raise it here alone. The shaman ritual's duty, in addition to taking care of the tribe and predicting future disasters, is to take care of the incarnation of the dear God. We respect it, worship it, provide it with the clearest spring water, the freshest weeds, and the sweetest fruits. Give it a bath, comb it, accompany it for walks, and keep it in a happy mood." Greet nodded slightly with a stiff smile on his face. "Those of you who worship the deer god like this, have you ever thought that deer have a natural lifespan? If you don't become a sacred deer, no matter how you raise it, it will eventually die one day. Wait, you said choose one every year, but what about the deer you raised before? Now, it's time for us to send the reindeer god's incarnation to his heaven." The great witch priest of the reindeer tribe waved his hand, and several warriors immediately rushed over and carried the stag out. "Return to the tribe's headquarters, knock them down, cut their necks, and bleed. Dear God, your incarnation has been with us for a whole year, and we have been under your eyes for a whole year." Under Greet's shocked eyes, the grand witch priest led 2 young witch priest apprentices, beat the deerskin drums, and sang in unison. "We follow your teachings. We tread your path. We walk as lightly as you through the wilderness, harming neither the woods nor the valleys. May you look at us and bless us, and may our bodies always have your warm power." During the song, the warriors danced around, topless, waving their weapons. The women in the tribe, under the leadership of the older women, peeled the skin, cleaned the internal organs, cut up the venison, and set up a large pot for cooking. When the singing and dancing ended, the great witch took the birch bowl filled with deer blood from the hands of the oldest woman and respectfully presented it to Gretel. "Dear witches who have come from afar, you have healed our people, and you are our brother. Please join us in receiving the blessings of the dear God, and let his power be with you forever." Gretel's whole body was in bad shape. The quarter-end sprint begins again. The goal of this sprint is to save 1,000 starting monthly tickets from yesterday to the end of the month. As long as you save enough, 2 more chapters will be added. Nearly half of the sprint has passed, and less than 200 votes have been saved. Come on, everyone. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. The inspiration for the incarnation of the deer-eating god comes from the first volume of Joan M. Orr's novel The Orphan, The Cave Bear Family. Well, the plot is pretty much the same, but they have cave bears, cave bears. Cave bear. Damn it, that kind of prehistoric animal that stood as tall as 2 people. Every year, we dig out a cave bear den, kill the female cave bear, and then raise the cubs in the tribe, where they eat, live, and play together. Let the little bear cub think he is a member of the tribe. Then at the tribal meeting, there are dozens of surrounding tribes with cave bears as their totems. The warriors kill the cave bear together and let it return to heaven to meet the god of the cave bear, and then kill one of the bear meat. Take a bite. Even a baby should be given a mouthful of bear broth. That's a cave bear. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 936. The strong, fishy smell of deer blood hit my face. Greet took a step back with an ugly expression. This is deer blood. Deer blood. Why give him a drink? It is said that deer blood, the ingredients, the effects are so. His body is only in his early 20s. And he is a half-elf in his early 20s. If you look at the adult age of the elf, maybe he is still a cub. Why should he drink this thing? and when he was just making deer blood, he saw that there was some unknown powder in the birch bowl. Stir and stir, stir and stir, some have come to the surface. Time was running out, and he didn't have time to throw away the identification technique. Judging from the smell and color alone, I blindly guessed that there are various spices, various fungi, and many herbs. Even if it is not poisonous, is there any hallucinogenic component in it? Is there any ingredient that increases heart rate and blood circulation? Is there something that is more difficult to describe? Words of rejection rolled around his lips. Then, he saw the great shaman of the reindeer tribe opposite, holding a bowl, and his expression turned ugly. Dear guest, although he tried his best to remain polite, his wrinkled old face was still visibly covered with doubt. Don't you want to accept the gift of the deer god? Don't you want to share the deer god's blessings with the compatriots of our tribe and let us become brothers? Brother god, Gretel's mind was wandering, and it suddenly occurred to him that eating gods is not exclusive to indigenous people. The most famous one is that in the Holy Communion of a certain religion in the past life, didn't red wine replace the divine blood and unleavened bread replace the divine body? Everyone is a god of food, no one is more civilized than the other. Thinking this way, I immediately felt calm and my blood pressure dropped by 20 mm Hg. He took half a step back, raised his head, and smiled calmly at the Great Witch Festival. Ah, you also saw it when we came here just now. I have a partner beside me, the white deer who can cast healing spells. With him here, it is impossible for me to drink deer blood like this. This will make him not happy. The Great Witch Festival was stunned for a moment, then subconsciously turned his head to look outside, then turned back. He observed Gretel carefully and nodded slowly. I see sincerity in your eyes. Those who keep a white deer as their companion are naturally our brothers, then, please do as you please. Gretel breathed a sigh of relief and took 2 more steps back. Raise your head, raise your gaze, quietly trigger detection magic, and look above the tribal settlement. Amidst the praises to the deer god, when the soldiers raised their wooden bowls and poured down bowls of steaming deer blood, when the old and weak women and children scooped up pieces of cooked venison and feasted with laughter. In the sky, there were wisps of mist, condensing into a ball of bright brilliance. Look carefully, the veins outlined by the light thread seem to really look like a 4-legged animal with horns. Are you the deer god? Is it the totem beast or animal spirit that this tribe has always worshipped and worshipped? Gretel extended his mental power and tried hard to communicate with the fluorescent light in the sky. Try to be as light and gentle as possible, like ripples blown by the breeze, hitting the fluorescent light. What is your origin? Is it a certain monster raised by this tribe? Or was it a magical beast that once roamed around the tribe, and then its spirit was worshipped and enshrined, eventually developing into what it is now? Or is it just the imagination and expectations of the reindeer tribe that shaped you now? The night breeze is gentle and the starry sky is silent. The ripples of Gretel's mental power gently tapped the fluorescent light, but it only made certain nodes of the light filament slightly brighter and did not arouse any feedback. He concentrated on it and communicated for a long time before sighing leisurely. Well, it seems like the communication was unsuccessful. Is this beast's spirit not smart enough, or am I not finding the right method? Hold head high. Outside the settlement, in the wilderness, a high-pitched neighing sound suddenly sounded. Greet immediately followed the sound. Under the starry sky, Apa stood up with his front hooves raised high, his bright eyes staring closely at the light group above. Hold head high. A voice that only people of their kind can understand rose high into the night sky. Amid the call, the light group above the settlement became brighter and brighter, and finally, it unfolded its handsome figure. That's a deer. Like Appa, it was a white deer, a huge white deer. But the shapes are not exactly the same, especially the shape of the antlers. It's not like Apa, who first tries his best to spread out to both sides, and then branches upward one by one, but sticks out diagonally upward. in all directions, and branches around the main branch. The top of each branch is dotted with light, colorful vines and flowers. It lowered its head and looked at Appa with its gentle almond-shaped eyes, as if looking at its long-lost brother or beloved son. The hooves stepped gently in the void, circle, circle, and circle again, surrounding Appa, getting closer and closer. Finally, it stood empty in the air, lowered its horns, and connected with Appa's horns. The vines and flowers on the deer spirit's body also spread one after another, falling on the silver moon deer and entering its body silently. Dear God! Dear God! On the ground, all kinds of exclamations came one after another, old, childish, crisp, and deep. The silver moon deer just lowered its head, and a brilliant silver light gradually appeared on its snow-white fur. O man blessed by the dear God! Also, the spiritual deer blessed by the dear God. Gretel slightly raised the corners of her lips on the high ground next to her. He couldn't say whether it was a spiritual deer blessed by the dear God, but with this wave of benefits, Appa seemed to be on the verge of advancement. Greet, who used the emperor to control the princes, used the spirit deer to control the natives, also got a lot of benefits. Not only was he given greater freedom of movement, but he was also given a large number of gifts, herbs, minerals, amber, fur. Gretel quickly calculated the price. It was much less than the cost of more than a dozen disease removal, so he silently accepted it. In addition to various thank you gifts, the reindeer tribe also presented a short antler with only one fork at the Great Witch Festival. These are the new antlers that the stag grows in spring. The Great Witch Festival took it upon himself to wrap the rope made of deer tail hair around the antlers and tie a complicated knot. This kind of antlers can call upon the life force of the deer god to heal injured and weak compatriots. After our prayers and blessings, any witch priest will know that you are our friend. Greet accepted it with a dull face. Before he could take action, the great witch priest took a step forward, flew his hands, and tied the antlers to the head of the oak staff. From the top of the oak stick downwards, the punched pottery piece given by the red stone tribe and the birch bark box given by the white birch tribe were embellished with the antlers. There was a tinkling sound, like a string of wind chimes, dangling on the head of the stick. Very good, I have already collected 3 of the clearance gifts that represent this is a friend. Greet looked at the bunch of gifts and suddenly felt a little dazed. If I walked all the way and collected the same thing from each tribe, wouldn't the string of gifts hang directly to the ground in the end? Or should he get a bag just for these things? No, maybe what he needs is a customs clearance document. If he passes a tribe, he will have someone stamp a stamp on it, so, is it the Tang monk script I took? Well, walking from the east coast to the west coast is indeed almost the same as traveling to the west. The quarter-end sprint begins again. The goal of this sprint is to save 1,000 starting monthly tickets from yesterday to the end of the month. As long as you save enough, 2 more chapters will be added. Nearly half of the sprint has passed, and less than 250 votes have been saved. Come on, everyone. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of Buy a book, growing a peaceful world. In ancient times, people cultivated fields, cultivated technology, and cultivated a peaceful and prosperous age. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 937. Chapter 934, Being intercepted by the natives, it seems that the cowpox is not enough. Gretel Don Monk Nordmark continues his journey. Well, he, Cirera, Bernard, Mr. Valenchimo, and Appa happened to be the 5 people who learned from the experience, that's right. As for the aboriginal boy Leighton, I think he needs to be accompanied on the way to seek Buddhist scriptures. Otherwise, he has never taken the wrong path for thousands of miles. Do you rely on the great sage to do somersaults and stand high in the sky to look out, to correct the direction? Of course, Gretel doesn't need to accompany her. The surrounding flowers, plants, trees, and shrubs showed him the way, which was better than any other company. But Leighton followed shamelessly, looking for a campsite, firewood, and food to eat, negotiating with tribes along the way to prove their identity. It's not easy to go through all kinds of efforts just to learn this fish bone removal technique. Gretel felt that spending a phantom pony spell to take him away every day was not too bad. After the reindeer tribe came the black fox tribe, and after the black fox tribe came the beaver tribe. Gretel's oak staff has a black fox tail and a pair of beaver incisors on the head. But his mood became increasingly dull, like the low-pressure dark clouds before it rained. When setting off from the New World, I carried 5,000 doses of cowpox vaccine with me. On this journey, I have used almost 1,000 doses. And along the way, as far as the eye can see, the plague is only getting worse. In the Redstone tribe, the number of seriously ill and dying patients is about 5%. In the reindeer tribe, it rises to close to 10%. In the black fox tribe and beaver tribe, it is close to 15%. Greet guessed that this smallpox came from the west and south of the New World. So the further you go west, the more sick people you go, the further you go south, the more sick people you go. There is still an endless plain here, which cannot stop the flow of people. It is very easy to run from one tribe to another. When we first landed, we didn't see any natives suffering from smallpox in the eastern region. Maybe it had something to do with the mountains blocking the flow of people. However, this is the Great Plains. I wonder if the river can stop people. Gretel raised his head and looked into the distance. There was another sparkling river in front of him. Should he stay by the river tonight, or should he cross the river and walk further? The phantom pony landed silently and made its way to the river. Before I could stand still, in the dusk, someone shouted from the other side of the river in the distance. Who is this? This is the territory of the Kestrel tribe. Don't come here. Here we go again, here we go again. Greet rolled his eyes silently. Next to him, the indigenous boy Leighton raised his voice and shouted back. Passing by? We are healers. Passing by where? Beaver tribe. Raton took the oak staff from Gretel's hand, raised it high, and showed off a large list of souvenirs on it. We came all the way from the east coast, and these are gifts given by them to treat various tribes. It proves that we are friends. We have no ill intentions, and we are also willing to treat the Kestrel tribe if necessary. Don't come over. The other side shouted louder. Not only did he shout, he also raised his long bow, nocked an arrow, and gestured towards the river bank. Our tribe and the beaver tribe are enemies. You are their friends, so you are not allowed to cross the border. Otherwise, we will fight you too. Okay, okay. Greet shrugged and decided not to challenge the opponent directly and cause trouble for himself. Well, since they are enemies and no one is allowed to pass through, it should be able to cut off personnel exchanges and prevent the spread of smallpox, right? They released the mage's hut on the river bank and had a good night's rest. Early the next morning, after running a long distance downstream, they took advantage of the fact that there were no patrols here and took off directly into the air, flying over the river bank. You can't put up a cordon everywhere. 4 phantom horses and a silver moon deer let go of their hooves and ran wildly. When we ran to the top of the sun, there was a sudden eagle call in front of us, and a giant eagle with a wingspan of more than 2 meters swooped down. No, when the giant eagle got close to Gretel, he realized that it was not an eagle, but a kestrel that had been enlarged many times. A monster domesticated by the Kestrel tribe. Or a totem beast. Before Gretel could figure it out, he had subconsciously cast spells quickly and hung a circle of armor on everyone. The kestrel did not attack, but dived, flew level, pulled up, spread its wings, and circled above everyone's heads. When we reached the 3rd circle, cows were heard croaking in the wilderness, and a huge bison walked out of the woods and stood in front of everyone. A young warrior rides on the bison. On a very cold day, all he had on his body was a deerskin apron and a large string of beads that could not block the wind but only increase the coldness. He grabbed the bison's mane with his left hand, raised his right hand, and the obsidian axe in his hand was shining with light. "We don't mean any harm. We're just passing through." Before the warrior could speak, Gretel had already raised his oak staff. A little bit of subtle white light, flying like fireflies on the tip of the stick. "I am a healer. These people are my companions. We come from the east coast and are going to the westernmost part of the continent. We will not pass through your tribe and will not interfere in any of your affairs. Of course, if you need treatment, we are willing to help you. The god of kestrels has seen your actions." After a moment of silence, the young warrior raised his face, glanced at the kestrels circling in the sky, and then leaned down on the back of the cow to salute. "Several nearby tribes are gathering together to discuss and prepare to resist the god of disease. I heard that a healer came from afar and claimed to have a way to resist the disease. Are they talking about removing disease, or cowpox?" Gretel subconsciously covered the space bag. Although his good things are no longer in his space bag, the little rattan bird given by Elder Tapros can hold more than his space bag. The great witch priests of each tribe discussed it and decided to invite you to come over and work out a solution together. If what you said is true, the Kestrel tribe, the Bison tribe, and the Black Panther tribe will not be stingy with our repayment." "Wait a minute, how many people are there in your tribe together?" "Our tribes are all the most powerful by the river." The young warrior raised his head proudly. "The people of the Kestrel tribe are as numerous as the birds in the woods, and the warriors of the Bison tribe are as numerous as the bison on the grassland. The Black Panther tribe's shamanic sacrifices are more numerous than the Black Panthers on the mountain. Come on, there are too many people, and I don't have enough cowpox." 4,000 tubes of cowpox. What is 4,000 tubes enough? In the city of Nevis alone, 1 million doses of cowpox vaccine were used, and when it was extended to other places, to the military and to immigrants from the New World, countless more doses were used. In Nevis, it was only through the tireless work of the parliament, nobles and commoners, magicians, nature priests and cattle ranch workers that such a huge amount of vaccine was released to meet everyone's needs. In the New World, there was only a group of 5 people including him, plus a local companion. If you rub it with your hands, how long will it last? The quarter-end sprint begins again. The goal of this sprint is to save 1,000 starting monthly tickets from yesterday to the end of the month. As long as you save enough, 2 more chapters will be added. There are still 2.5 days left, and there are still 600 votes left. Everyone, please work hard. It's the last time, don't keep your tickets in your hand. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. I recommend a newly unearthed book, A Guide to Medical Treatment in the 19th Century. It tells the story of the protagonist, a surgeon, who travels back to the 19th century and works his way up from being a surgeon's assistant step by step. The details are rich and informative, and the annotations are so many that it makes people feel distressed. For the first time, I learned that the side effects of using ether for anesthesia in that era were 1. It would knock down the surgeon on the spot. 2. In that era of candle lighting, ether would burn. Of course, the rhythm at the beginning of this book is just like the beginning of my book, which is not quite right. This also means that the score of Medical Guide in the 19th century is not particularly good at the moment. But readers who have endured more than 2 million words of my book will probably not care about this little thing. This book is worth reading just for the medical details in the 19th century. And the author seems to be really a doctor. The last book was completed with 2.77 million words, so you don't have to worry about eunuchs in this book. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 938. Gretel suddenly stopped the phantom pony. The kestrel circled in the sky, making a long cry from time to time, as if it was reporting news to people in the distance. Behind the buffalo warrior, smoke and dust surged into the sky. Soon, a large herd of bison swarmed over, and the strongest bison had strong warriors with well-defined muscles sitting on them. In the woods, a black figure loomed. Gretel narrowed his eyes and even cast an eagle eye spell on himself, unable to see clearly what it was. Is it Black Panther? Or a warrior wearing a leopard skin? Or is he a warrior who has been blessed by the Black Panther god and takes on the form of a partial Black Panther? All in all, the opponent seems to be outnumbered and capable of fighting. Greed took a deep breath, threw a magnification spell on himself, and said loudly, "I'll only stay for 1 day. I'll leave early tomorrow morning. I'll do my best, but I can't treat the number of patients that exceeds my ability. If you agree, I'll lead the way." The buffalo warrior tugged at his mount's mane without saying a word. Bison swarm, kestrels lead. Before the sky completely darkened, Gretel arrived at the tribal settlement, or in other words, the gathering place of these large tribes. Between the hills, there is an open plain with slightly undulating terrain. In the center of the plain, a 4-story mound larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza stands tall and majestic. Around the mound, small flat mounds are dotted like ripples caused by large mounds. Tall wooden fences were erected on all 4 levels of mounds, and on top of some of the smaller mounds. Surrounded by wooden fences are a network of irrigation and transport canals, as well as grid-like, field-like plots. In the middle of the farmland, hundreds of wooden houses were built with high roofs and extremely thick roofs. The building on top of the 4-story mound is different. It is taller and more majestic, with a high bulging spire pointing sharply at the sky. Around the roof, there are various symbols flying, bison horns, curved beaks and hooks, sharp claws popping out of the meat pads. There were some other marks that Greet couldn't recognize at first glance. Hell, how many tribes are there here? There must be more than 3. Greet murmured. In the spiritual connection, Mr. Baransimo's voice soon came. At least 10. I can only recognize 8. This is a big party. It seems that all the surrounding tribes who can come should be here. The inner mounds are tall and wide, while the outer mounds are relatively low and not that large. Correspondingly, the houses above are much smaller, with almost no decorations of animal bones, horns and feathers on the roof. How many people are there? Greet turned his eyes and counted around. 1 circle, 2 circles, 3 circles, the first circle counts 10 houses, the second circle has 15 to 20. The third circle, the fourth circle, it is not a problem to accommodate 10 people in each house. Well, counting the people from the host tribe. Before the number of people could be counted, the kestrel folded its wings and swooped down like a sharp arrow, landing on the tent decorated with curved beaks and hooks. Soon, a group of people came out one after another from the tent. Judging from their wrinkled faces, the long staffs in their hands, and the complicated crowns and tattoos, Greet would bet a silver coin that these are all spellcasters in the tribe. The kestrel screamed from the central roof. And their eyes, first one, then a group, turned their position accurately and fell on Greet and his group standing far away. The Great Witch Festival comes from afar. The leading witch priest, or shaman, walked quickly with people. From a distance, he waved the long staff in his hand, stroked his chest and saluted. He shaved his head, got a bird's beak-like tattoo in the middle of his forehead, and wore a feather crown. When he bowed and lowered his head, his whole head was like a kestrel lowering its head to peck someone. Greet managed to hold back his laughter and listened to his speech. Thank you for your generosity and willingness to save our people. The devil of disease has seized us, and our soldiers, our women, and our children are dying in large numbers. He spread his arms and raised his head high. The voice was ups and downs, with many deliberately elongated vibratos. Gretel almost thought he was singing. We need to gather every bit of our strength, all the kind and powerful wizards and warriors, to fight against the cruel devil dash. Where is the patient? Greet interrupted. Kestrel Great Witch Festival was stunned for a moment, put on a smile, and half turned around. Here. A huge white cow walked slowly over, its horns lowered obediently. The Kestrel Great Witch Priest was the first to get on it, and the other witch priests also got on their mounts and walked towards the 4-story mound in the center. When they came to the bottom of the mound, they changed to a sedan chair, and the two of them climbed up. The temple was filled with smoke. Gretel stared at the bubble spell for a long time, then realized that the place was divided into left and right sides. On the left were brightly colored mats, with several exquisite tables placed beside each mat, perhaps the territory of the great witch priests. The ground on the right was exposed, and there were a large number of patients lying on the dirt floor, which was made of a mixture of soil and grass. The stench was overwhelming. Some moaned softly, some begged softly, and some looked motionless and might have been dead. Gretel swept through the fortune-telling technique and immediately began to remove disease one by one. The white light flashed, and the disease was cured. Soon, the patients in the temple began to get up one after another. The sight behind him was blazing. The great witch priests from various tribes stared at Gretel's movements, refusing to blink even a moment. Until Gretel finished throwing all the healing spells, everyone's eyes flickered and they looked at each other and nodded lightly. "Dear Grand Wizard, thank you for your help." It was the Kestrel Grand Wizard who spoke. As he spoke, his eyes moved quickly, scanning the dimensional bag around Greet's waist again and again. "We have no relatives and no reason to ask you to save our compatriots. We should not have any other requests. But when we go out to fight against the devil of epidemic disease, we hope to ensure that our soldiers are not harmed. Can your magic medicine be used too, can you? I don't have much left here." Greet subconsciously covered the dimensional bag. "You tell me the number, if you have it, you will get it, if you don't have it, you won't have it. After handing over the things, send me away tomorrow." "That's cowpox?" It was the cowpox that a group of necromancers from the Oak Grove Medical Clinic worked on for almost a year. When he thought that cowpox might not be enough, or even far from enough, Gretel's first reaction was to run away. In normal times, it would not be too difficult for him to stay in the New World for a year and a half and study how to rub cowpox by hand. But now, Brother Lin En is still waiting for him to save him. "If you stay here for one day, Brother Lin will be in greater danger. Don't look at him." In the past few days, when he went to one tribe to govern another tribe, he only used his rest time at night and traveled during the day. He never missed 100 miles a day. The quarter-end sprint begins again. There are only the last 2 days. There are still 529 votes left. Everyone, please work hard. It's the last time. Don't keep your tickets in your hand. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to the Strong Sea Monster for the 5,000 starting coins reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 939. Dozens of pairs of burning eyes stared at Gretel. The Kestrel tribe, the Bison tribe, the Black Panther tribe, the Grey Wolf tribe, the River tribe, the Stone Sturgeon tribe, the Thunder tribe, the Kuongsan tribe. There were also some tribal names that Gretel didn't quite understand, and they felt like a string of pure musical notes. More than a dozen chiefs, more than a dozen great witch priests, as well as tribal warriors, young shaman priests, and shaman priest apprentices all stared at Gretel with scorching eyes. Praying, anxious, and anxious. Just like in his previous life, when the epidemic just broke out, countless patients and family members surrounded him, praying for a chance to be admitted to the hospital, receive oxygen, and put on a ventilator. They want to live. Everyone wants to live. Greet closed her eyes tightly. Close it and open it. Then, he sat down cross-legged and began to take out the Vaccinia vaccine box by box from the space bag. This box contains 50 cigarettes. 50 sticks. 50 sticks. In front of Greet, the brightly colored straw mat with large geometric patterns was soon filled with boxes. Small metal boxes, only a little longer than a palm, were piled into a pile surrounded by a faint cool air. Greet looked up and looked around. There are only 2,000, you can distribute it among yourself. It is only suitable for use on people who have never had this plague, to protect them from the disease. It is of no use to those who are sick or have been cured. There was silence. Gretel looked left and right. Most people, especially the soldiers, had blank expressions on their faces. Look at the box, then look at your chief, then look at the box, then look at your own Great Witch Festival. What's wrong? What's wrong? Didn't I make it clear enough? It must have never happened before, Gretel emphasized. Those who have already had this disease, or are currently sick, it's useless. It's wasted. There is one person who cannot be protected. Find someone, I will vaccinate you, I can only stay here for 1 day. Silence. The silence continued. Then, Gretel heard a small, breathless voice coming from among the chiefs. 2,000. The speaker spoke slowly and hesitantly. When he said the word 2,000, it was obvious from the voice that he was imitating Greet's pronunciation. What is it? Greet's vision went dark. Why is this a problem? Why is 2,000 what a problem? Do you not understand the word 2,000, or simply can't count? 2,000 means 10,200. It means 2,100. He explained it in the simplest possible language, looking around expectantly. Who else doesn't understand? I need to make it simpler, but I really can't explain it. I'm really not an elementary school, no, a kindergarten math teacher. Sorry, someone has already finished cracking their fingers and started to take off their boots and crack their toes. Of course most people are not so embarrassed. In other words, they all stared eagerly at the Great Witch Festival of their tribe, hoping that the Great Witch Festival could understand these numbers, or, in other words, they hoped that the Great Witch Festival could do a good job in these allocations. Counting. Calculate. What does this have to do with ordinary warriors? As long as they can fight, drag prey back, and patrol tribal territory, that's all. Planning the fields, counting seeds, and calculating the sowing date are all matters of the Great Witch Festival and have nothing to do with them. And the omnipotent Great Witch Festival also responded to their expectations. The Great Witch Priest of the Dahi tribe opened the iron box, picked up a cowpox potion, and under Gretel's guidance, vaccinated a warrior. Then, he stared at the warrior. What are you looking at? Immunity is something that cannot be seen with the naked eye. While Gretel was cursing, he saw the Great Witch Priest shaking his tambourine and chanting something. Soon, the sound of rushing water sounded from behind his thin body. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Greet jumped slightly. Even without activating detection magic, he could see a black and white shadow rising behind the Great Witch Festival. The shadow quickly solidified and glowed, and after a few blinks, it turned into a surging river. Galloping, roaring, roaring. Among the hard rock beds, the river water carried the sand and rushed forward, hitting thousands of white foams on the rocks. The whirlpool turned rapidly, and countless broken branches, pieces of wood and even wild animals were swept into the water and smashed on the shore and the rocks in the middle of the river. And this illusory river drooped downwards, rolled slightly, and completely sucked the warrior into it. Before Greet could shout no, the great witch's eyes turned silver white, he leaned back and fell into the skilled arms of his disciples. The sound of water rushed, wrapping the body of the great wizard in a hazy state, as if he was under the water. Only her hair, which was longer than her waist, floated on the illusory water surface without any wind, like a drowned ghost trying to catch someone to replace her. After struggling for a while, he suddenly stood up straight without bending his knees or lifting his feet, and turned stiffly in one direction. I saw, these medicines can protect our soldiers from diseases, make them fearless when fighting against the devil of disease. You are a prophecy? Wait, what is that big river behind you? With the brightness of detection magic feedback, this thing is guaranteed to start at level 15. With a crash, the whole hall immediately became noisy. Led by the Kestrel tribe, Black Panther tribe, and Buffalo tribe, several great witch priests were whispering among themselves, from discussing to quarreling, from quarreling to raising their fists and waving their arms. The only decent thing about her was that she didn't take off her shoes and bang them on the table. 40 iron boxes were grabbed here and there by their hands. If you take one more, I will snatch it back. If Gretel hadn't shouted "Don't use force, it's useless if it breaks in time," it wouldn't have been a difficult task for them to tear the iron box in half. Can't you just calculate the tribe population and then negotiate the distribution ratio? How much should each tribe get? It must lead to this kind of bartering transaction scene. Greet thought painfully. There was a lot of noise and fighting between you and me. After struggling for a long time, all the iron boxes were finally distributed. After listening to Gretel's instructions, the disciples of the Great Witch Festival went to stab people with their iron boxes. The chiefs and warriors of various tribes, carrying all kinds of gifts, piled up into a mountain in front of Greet. However, early the next morning, as soon as Gretel walked out of the mage's hut, several great witch priests and chiefs gathered around him. The two great shamans of the Kestrel tribe and the Dehi tribe bowed at the same time, 45 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees. Dear far traveler. The great shaman of the Kestrel tribe put his right hand on his chest and spoke in a song-like tone. Thank you for the miracle medicine you brought us. Our soldiers, our women and children are all safe because of this, and are protected from the pursuit of the disease devil. We respectfully ask you to join our team and launch an attack on the devil. Behind the great witch priests, the chiefs and warriors, layer by layer, formed a ring around Gretel. Sarala and Bernard immediately stood next to Gretel. Without thinking, Mr. Valensimo protected the boss's back and silently clenched the long knife with both hands. Why do I want to join you again? Gretel tightened his grip on the oak staff. As promised before, I'll stay one night and then leave. Get out of the way. If you don't let me go, you want to fight, right? We are not afraid of fighting, Sarala shouted. Gretel, let's go. The quarter-end sprint begins again. Last day and a half. There are only 240 votes left. Everyone, please work hard. It's the last time, don't keep your tickets in your hand. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 940. Gretel's cheek lines tightened, and she raised her hands, brushing out the defensive magic piece by piece. High mage armor, ranged protection, arrow reversal, stone skin, ray deflection, radiant shield. Blah blah blah, hang it up one by one for yourself, for Bernard, for APA, and for Mr. Valentino. Still having some energy left, he turned his hand to Raton and swiped a piece of it. The light on several people flickered, first lighting up layer by layer, then becoming slightly restrained and disappearing. Only those with extremely keen senses can sense Gretel and his entourage's preparedness from the power fluctuations surrounding them. In addition to defense, there is also offense. The oak staff in Gretel's hand has a string of light balls hung on the head, which can be shot out at any time and at any time. Bernard tightened his grip on the big bone club, and Mr. Valensimo took out a shield, holding the shield on the left and the sword on the right, and took a stance. Sarala untied the longbow with interest, grunted unhurriedly, and pulled out a pretentious long arrow from the quiver. Even Appa lowered his huge horns and dug his hooves on the ground, ready to rush forward at any time. The attitude is extremely clear. Get out of the way and let us go, nothing will happen, don't get out of the way, we have the ability and determination to fight straight out. The expressions of the great witch priests all became solemn. Even if they have different power systems and cannot recognize the spells used by the opponent at a glance, as a strong person, they can still feel the momentum and strength of Gretel and his group. With their strength in numbers, they might be able to force each other to stay, but maybe half of the people present would die. The great witch priests were nervous, and the chiefs and warriors who had no ability to cast spells were even more nervous. The chiefs in the front row held wooden sticks, animal bones, long knives and bones so tightly that water could flow from the handles of the weapons. And the wizard apprentices, warriors and ordinary warriors in the back row. Whoosh. Brush. I don't know if it was a test with the boss's acquiescence, or if his hand slipped due to nervousness. In short, a sharp arrow and a cloud of grey mist rushed towards Gretel. It failed to break through his defense and was easily blocked by the armor around him. Gretel's face darkened. He jumped on Appa, lowered his body, and covered himself behind the silver moon deer's neck. Walk. One hand grabbed Appa's mane, and the other hand lowered down, quietly placing down a grease technique. The greasy grease spread out in a circle with him as the center, and then, with a bang, a huge air ball exploded in front. One by one of the great wizards who tried hard to resist the explosion, they all staggered and slid to both sides. Appa rushed out, while Bernard and Valentino each raised their weapons to protect themselves. Sarala followed at the end like a leisurely pace. With a sweep of her bow tip, she swept away several chiefs who wanted to stop them. Stop! Stop! Please stay! All kinds of shouts sounded from all directions. Greed lay on the back of the silver moon deer without saying a word, quietly cleaning the greasy spell from his teammates' feet. Of course, if it's someone else's foot, forget it. If he doesn't add another layer, he'll be in a good mood. There were bang, bang, boom, and clang all around, and Bernard's big bone club swept away a piece of it. Valensimo kept knocking away the round shield in his hand to attack, and swung his knife coldly. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps, very good, no one has been hurt so far. They have rushed out of the 2-level circle. If they rush out of the 2-level circle, the people in front will not be able to stop them. Moo! A loud roar shook the platform. Gretel suddenly turned his head, and a bright light rose in the field of vision brought by detection magic. I'll go, guaranteed to be above level 15. I can't beat this guy. Even Sarala has to turn into a prototype before she can fight with it. Fortunately, the brilliance did not attack directly, but condensed and combined, turning into a huge bison. After a blink of an eye, the bison swooped down and attached itself to the nearest warrior in front of Gretel. Gretel watched helplessly as the warrior roared, his whole body became thicker, and his skin became darker, visibly becoming a bit like cowhide. A pair of phantoms of horns appeared behind him. He lowered his head, bowed, and put his hands on Appa's chest. Hey! The silver moon deer, which weighed over a ton and had already started to charge, was actually blocked by him. I'll go. Gretel muttered softly. This thing feels several levels stronger than the power of the barbarian bull. Can it be named barbarian bull possession? With confused thoughts in his mind, he raised his hand and patted it lightly, giving Appa a blessing of wild bull power. The next moment, the Appa stood up, contracted and kicked out his two hooves, and kicked the warrior out with a bang. Gretel trembled at the sound. He quickly glanced out and saw that, fortunately, the guy's chest had not collapsed and there was no blood coming out of his mouth and nose. It seems that barbarian bull possession not only provides strength, but also provides the thick skin of the barbarian bull. After kicking away a bull that was blocking the road, Appa put down his front hooves and rushed 5 or 6 positions in one breath. Large groups of ordinary warriors gathered around, and Gretel used a spider web spell on the left and a spider web spell on the right, and they were entangled in large pieces. Finally out rushing to the bottom of the 4-story mound in one breath, Greet exhaled and quickly looked back. People really can't be easy to talk to. Hell, I'd rather take a detour next time than accept someone else's invitation. With a slight click of his finger, he began to summon the phantom pony, and rushed out with everyone. Before the second phantom pony appeared, the wind roared overhead, and a great shaman priest, wrapped in the long wind, landed directly in front of the silver moon deer. Appa reflexively took 2 steps forward and raised his hoof to kick him. The great shaman priest, however, did not dodge. He opened his arms and blocked the front with his thin body. It felt that it was not enough for Appa's hoof to step on him. In the meditation field of vision, there was no radiance surrounding him, and obviously, even the protection was not turned on. Gretel quickly grabbed Appa. The great witch priest looked up at him, his voice was urgent, and a series of words came out in rapid succession. Please calm down. We are not trying to detain you by force. We just want to discuss it with you. Please listen to our request, it won't take long. If you still want to leave after listening to this, I will personally send someone to lead you. Gretel sighed softly. He waved his hand casually, and the phantom colt that was about to condense disappeared silently. The Great Witch Festival immediately breathed a sigh of relief, drew his arms inward, and swung them out with all his strength. Disperse. Disperse. Don't block the way. I'll have a talk with this distinguished guest. It's good that the other party also showed sincerity. Greet nodded slightly, jumped off Appa, and listened to the old man asking seriously. Guest from afar, do you have any urgent matters on your way? Can we help you solve those troubles in exchange for you staying a few more days to treat the compatriots of our tribe? The final moments of the quarter-end sprint. There are still 136 votes left. As long as these votes are cast, 2 chapters will be added next month. It's the last time, hurry up and give me the tickets you have in your hands. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to Atwater Izzy for the 100 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 941. The tense atmosphere slowly faded away. Gretel really couldn't do anything to let Appa step on the old man who stood in front of him with his bare hands and didn't defend or attack. Of course, the encirclement has also dispersed, so he doesn't have to step on it directly and is willing to talk nicely. I am anxious to save my friend. He is trapped in the western part of the continent, and his situation is unknown. If we delay for 1 day, it may be too late to save people. You really can't delay rescuing people. Old Witch G nodded sincerely. His expression was sincere, with I understand your difficulties and I am willing to help you written all over his face. He was exactly the same as the old director in Greet's previous life when he talked to the patients' families. Dear guest, can you tell me where the friend you want to save is currently? Maybe we can provide some information, such as who are the main local forces, what powerful gods there are, and what are the more dangerous places. Are you willing to say it now? Beside Greet, Mr. Valensimo said coldly. Yesterday Greet was busy rescuing people, so he used the name of team negotiator to go around chatting with people and asking for information. The distribution of tribes, the geography of mountains and rivers, news about strong men. As a result, I kept asking him questions, either arguing with him or giving him a bunch of inexplicable and contradictory gossip. After struggling all night, there is basically no useful information. It was a disgrace to his bard career. Regarding Valensimo's questioning, the old witch priest smiled and didn't take it seriously, with a somewhat resigned attitude. He nodded to the other party, turned to Gretel again, and smiled slightly. Our dandelion tribe is not good at fighting, and we only have a little ability to inquire for information. Our tribe members are like dandelions floating on the earth, walking everywhere and asking everywhere. This distinguished guest. He turned his face sideways and his eyes paused on Valensimo's face. It's been a year or two since you left here, right? We have the fastest news about major events that have happened recently. As for the news about powerful people, there are so many great wizards and warriors, so their estimates are more accurate. Mr. Valentino became sullen and silent. Gretel patted Apia and simply jumped off the deer's back. Then please ask first, has anyone seen this friend of mine? When was the last time they saw him? Where was he? He raised his hand slightly, and the silent phantom appeared quietly, outlining the images of Lynn and Mr. Trochka. The old witch frowned for a while, shook his head, and called the people around him to take a look. A group of clan leaders looked at each other one by one, and everyone shook their heads. Never seen it? Never seen it? Such a thin man with a black cat, if I ever see him, I will definitely remember him. No traveler like this has passed through our tribe. Greet sighed in despair. Brother Lin, you are so good at hiding. You traveled all the way without visiting any tribe. Or maybe, if you didn't take this road, the widest river is still further to the west? Then please tell me first, what are the big tribes going west and south from here? What is their current situation? The old wizard's expression relaxed, and the wrinkles on his face relaxed. He used his cane forcefully, inserted the end of the cane deeply into the ice and snow, and then lifted it up with all his strength. With a bang, the ice and snow where the cane landed exploded, revealing the black earth underneath. Then, he stretched out his other hand from his robe and flicked it down quickly. After murmuring a few words in a low voice, a small green bud sprouted from the ground. It quickly stretched its stems and leaves, and bloomed into densely packed small yellow flowers, dotted with some white pom-poms. These hairy dandelions are sparsely or densely distributed on the ground. At a glance, the rough shape of the continent is outlined, with mountains, rivers undulating and looming. This is the natural priest's method. No, his ability to sow seeds into a plan is much better than him. Gretel took a breath and stared at the old witch. The old wizard stroked his beard and said with a smile. The place where we are currently is the settlement of the Kestrel tribe, and this gathering was also convened by them. He touched the flower bed slightly, and a small piece of yellow flower grew rapidly and turned into a white pom-pom. Next to the Kestrel tribe, across the river, is the Bison tribe. They have the largest population, occupy the largest territory, and are also the most severely affected by this disaster. Further west is the Black Panther tribe. They have the most brave warriors. In the past few years, they fought against the invaders from the south and pulled out thousands of people in one go. This time they have the most determined attitude in resisting the disease devil. Further west, across two rivers, there is the territory of the Stone Crocodile tribe. They have always been hostile to the Black Panther tribe, and they often fight. The Stone Crocodile tribe is protected by the god of Black Marsh, and the god of Black Marsh, said to be a subordinate of the plague devil. The dandelions under my feet are blooming one by one. The round, snow-white pompons are constantly blown up by the cold wind, and fall to the distance. They take root and then bloom. A piece of yellow flower is a tribe, and a piece of defeated pom-pom is the famous dangerous land and powerful monsters around these tribes. Gretel concentrated on his memory. Mr. Valensimo took out a notebook from nowhere and started writing and drawing quickly. Remembering it, he suddenly asked, "Is the plague devil legendary or real? Have any of you seen him? What does he look like? How strong is he?" "Of course it's real." Old Witch G raised his head in surprise, with an expression on his face like "Why don't you even believe this?" After calming down, he waved his hand again, and a piece of dandelion fluff rolled up on the spot, condensing into a rough human shape in the air. The plague devil has two forms. One is a tall man with a swollen body. He floats in rivers and swamps, dripping with miserable green liquid and exploding at any time. Anyone who sees him will collapse. He couldn't stand the ground and died of vomiting and diarrhea. Sounds like a carrion taking on a giant view. Gretel complained silently. The other is a thin girl. She walks in the air without touching the ground. The flies are the hem of her skirt, the mosquitoes are her streamers, and the miasma is her makeup. Wherever she goes, there are people there. Ignite high fever on their bodies, causing them to die in a coma. Well, this sounds like a collection of various typhoid fever, malaria, yellow fever, and various infectious diseases. It's not unreasonable, but this kind of feeling and understanding can really be concrete. Is anyone coming? Have you seen it? Saw it? We even fought her. A booming voice answered. Greet turned around and saw a chief striding over. The man was tall and strong, and the huge horns on his head made him taller. He looked almost as tall as Bernard. The plague girl is so difficult to fight. She sweeps among us like a black wind. As long as she touches a little bit, people will immediately fester, turn black, have high fever, and die quickly. Only the strongest warriors can withstand it. Live with this influence. There is another way, which is to use fire. Another great wizard stood up. Gretel seemed to remember whether he belonged to the mangrove tribe or the redwood tribe. He rolled up his sleeves bitterly and showed a large scar to everyone. Use fire, continuous fire, to block the direction of the plague girl. Give the warriors the blessing of fire, so that they can charge with flames on their bodies. This scar on my body was burned while fighting her. It sounds like the necromantic plague spell. So many people have seen it, and so many people have faced it head on. So, is there really such an existence, a totem god walking in the world? She can practice the disease technique to the point where she can carry it with her at any time and become infected if she touches it. Her level is very high, a strong person above level 15? Level 18? It won't be legendary anymore, right? Greet's face became more and more serious. He dispersed Lin's image and summoned another light and shadow on the ground, the Kestrel tribe, the Buffalo tribe, the Black Panther tribe, the Stone Crocodile tribe. Piece by piece, each is outlined in a different color. Then, he drew the meandering river and the bulging plateau. My friend previously walked along the great river called the Great River, which is so wide that one cannot see the other side at a glance, all the way to the seaside. After arriving at the seaside, he continued westward, climbed to the plateau, and then the plateau has been lost. A bright silver line extends from the east coast to the river, turns to the southern mouth, and then turns to the west. So, what powerful tribes are there on the plateau? What gods are there that we need to pay attention to? For a moment, all the great wizards around Gretel fell silent. The sound of heavy breathing came and went, as if a dark cloud suddenly appeared above everyone's heads, and there was a rumble of thunder in it. There are very powerful gods on the plateau. After a long while, the great wizard of the Dandelion tribe coughed and said solemnly, "That is the kingdom ruled by the eagle god and the snake god. Some of our tribesmen have been there in the early years. They said that the warriors there can throw spears with golden light in their hands. They are the people closest to the sun. In the kingdom, The priests known as the snake women have long hair that can turn into venomous snakes at any time. They are the people closest to the earth and are also the representatives of death. They and the eagle warriors rule the kingdom side by side. The area they rule is a sacred land that even the plague girls dare not invade. If the plague girl is really the manifested totem god, then the eagle god and snake god who are stronger than them will be even more troublesome. Greed frowned tightly, and before he could continue asking, he heard the second piece of bad news. Recently, the plague girl seems to have gotten an opportunity to be promoted from the devil to the god of plague. Therefore, she is frantically causing death among us in order to gather enough power to annex the eagle country and obtain the eagle. The Godhead of God. Dear guest, if you want to go to the eagle kingdom now, you will have to pass through the battle line between the gods. This is really too dangerous. Why don't you stop for a while and let us send our tribesmen to inquire for you? Any news? The last 12 hours. 29 votes left. As long as you cast 29 more votes, 2 more chapters will be added next month. The author never refuses to pay. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to @RedCometMars for the 5,000 starting coins reward. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 942. Gretel's face became more and more solemn. 2 gods, no, 2 powerful gods, with their subordinate totem gods, mythical beasts, priests, and warriors, were all ready to start the film. In this smoke-filled scene, he wants to sneak across the blockade? Greet thought for a moment, before D-Day, the kind of cloudy day. What would it be like if a small team that did not belong to the Allies or the Axis wanted to sneak ashore from the beaches of Normandy, or from any beach in the English Channel? He shuddered and felt as if there was an exclamation point on his forehead, with the word "seeking death" written in large, highlighted and bold letters. What is the eagle country like? He asked cautiously. How many people do they have? How many warriors do they have? How powerful are their gods? What are the powers of their gods and priests? Well, the first question stumped old Witch G. Greed suspected that this was because the natives of the New World did not have the concept of a population survey at all. He quickly changed the question. How many people are there in all the tribes here combined? Well, come on, let's continue splitting. Gretel simply turned to the Buffalo tribe, the Kestrel tribe, the Black Panther tribe, the chiefs and shamans of each tribe, and asked one by one. How many people are there in your tribe, you? 2 or 3,000, maybe. 2,000. 5,000. More than 3,000. The epidemic killed a lot of people. Recently, the number has been less than 3,000. Added up, the total number of tribes gathering here is probably between 40,000 and 50,000. Greet thought for a while. So, is the population of Eagle Country more or less than all of you here combined? That must be a lot. A lot more. How many times more? 2 times, 5 times, or 10 times? Okay, no sound again. Greet sighed helplessly. He really misses his past life. If you want to know how many people there are in a country or a city, you can just use Baidu. Although the data may be from 1 or 2 years ago, the overall difference is pretty much the same. Well, there are other ways you can refer to. Greet thought quickly and continued to ask. Do they have a capital? How big is their capital? There is a capital, old Witch G nodded affirmatively. There was a dandelion, one of our traveling tribesmen, visited their capital. It was an unusually peaceful and beautiful basin surrounded by mountains, with 50 common people. Scar is so big. Seeing Greet's blank eyes, he quickly added. It takes a whole day to walk from the direction of sunrise to sunset, and it takes 2 full days to walk from the direction of cold wind to the direction of warm wind. It is 200 miles wide from east to west and 400 miles long from north to south. Mr. Baransimo, who was more familiar with the New World, added in a low voice behind Greet. That is really a very large basin. Gretel took a breath of air and stood in awe. This area is many times larger than the Sichuan plain. Although he couldn't give a figure for how many people the Sichuan plain could support, hundreds of millions should be no problem. Even if the productivity of the indigenous people is limited and they cannot feed so many people, move the decimal point forward one place, 10 million? Ah, half of this basin is a lake, a particularly clear and beautiful lake called the Tears of the Mountain God. The other half is where people live. Lao Wuji quickly patched it up. Gretel nodded. 10 million discounted in half, 5 million, okay, what a ghost. The entire kingdom of Kent has only more than 10 million people, certainly less than 20 million. The population of the kingdom of Kent has supported 3 faiths, the Order of the God of Nature, the Temple of the God of War, and the Temple of the Spring Water. There are also some people who believed in the Glory Holy See before. It has not been many years since the Glory Holy See was kicked out, and most of them have not converted. 5 million people provide faith to one God, no, to a pair of gods. How powerful can that God be? His most powerful priest should be legendary, right? What are their power characteristics? Strength is very unique. The warriors of the Eagle God are divided into Black Eagle warriors, White Eagle warriors, and Golden Eagle warriors, the old witch priest said one by one with his fingers. The Black Eagle warrior can borrow the power of the Eagle God to glide briefly, and the White Eagle warrior can fly. The Golden Eagle warrior can throw a spear with the power of the sun, and can burn through the black mist of the plague girl on the spot. I don't know how this level is divided. If the Black Eagle warrior takes on the knights, the White Eagle takes on the 10th level Great Knight, and the Golden Eagle takes on the 15th level Heavenly Knight. Gretel shuddered, and was shot by a group of Heavenly Knights with spears, and Cyrilla couldn't withstand it. Do you want me to go home and call my parents? Cyrilla was also a little vague, nudged over in small steps, and tugged on the hem of Greet's clothes. Greet shook his head very firmly. No, it's really necessary. I'll go back and ask the teacher. Rescuing Lin En was, in a small way, his own business, but in a big way, it was the Parliament's business. It's already the limit to let Cyrilla go on an adventure alone. If necessary, her safety must be ensured first. What's going on with asking her parents to come forward? Is there no legend left in Parliament? He stared at Old Witch Sacrifice, waiting for his next description. The power of the Eagle Warrior is sunlight, but what about the Snake God? What about those snake priests known as Snake Ladies? As for the Serpent Priests, they are representatives of the earth and death. They grant the earth fertility, grain harvests, and livestock growth. At the same time, they also lead all the dead back to the underworld and look forward to their resurrection again. In fact, it has always been the duty of the snake god priests to perform sacrifices, especially the use of human sacrifices to please the gods, and to serve the deceased kings. The most powerful female snakes are strong people who walk on the boundary between life and death. Greet closed her eyes subconsciously. Okay, no need to ask, Brother Lin En must have been trapped there. Isn't that the indigenous version of the necromancer? Brother Lin En, who has just advanced to level 9 and is so high-spirited that he would go to the New World in order to gain more knowledge, would climb to the plateau to have a look. The question now is, how strong can the Golden Eagle Warrior and the female snake be? He looked left and right, his eyes circling around the Great Witch Festival and the chiefs in the square. The Golden Eagle Warriors and the female snakes are the main force against the Plague Maiden, The natives here also want to gather together to fight against the Plague Maiden, then their warriors and priests, or at least their totem gods, cannot be too weak, right? How powerful are their gods? Can their gods take action on their own? Can your gods take action on their own? The great witch priests exchanged glances with each other, and their expressions became more relaxed. The chief of the buffalo tribe strode out. Dear guest, your enemy is very powerful, and it is very dangerous to go to rescue people. We sincerely ask you to stay for a few days to help our soldiers avoid the impact of the disease. In return, we have everything from terrain, intelligence, and soldiers to we can provide it. Gretel was moved. He looked back at Cyrilla, then at Bernard and Valensimo, who were tense and obviously nervous, and pondered for a moment. Your tribe's territory should be very vast, right? I'll keep walking west from here, passing by the Buffalo tribe and the Black Panther tribe. Can I provide you with treatment along the way in exchange for your information? This way I won't delay your business, nor will I be delayed. Mine. Dear guest, actually you don't have to be in such a hurry. During the slight commotion, it was the old wizard of the Dandelion tribe who stepped forward to stop him. If something happens to your friend, the most likely possibility is that he will be used as a human sacrifice. The Eagle Kingdom has always cherished the use of outsiders. Human sacrifices are usually held at the summer solstice every year. The power of the sun, the most powerful moment. Gretel quickly calculated the time. Looking back at the time when Mr. Trochka came here, the summer solstice should have passed when Brother Lin was in trouble, and now it is winter. According to the calendar of the Kingdom of Kent, the new year should not have arrived yet. In other words, if Brother Lin hadn't been killed immediately for trespassing into the forbidden area, he should still be safe now. It will be nearly half a year until next summer solstice when he will be put on the altar of human sacrifice. He exhaled slightly and dropped his shoulders. The old wizard of the Dandelion tribe immediately took advantage of every opportunity. Dear guest, shall we go back to the stage and sit down first? Please treat the children of the Kestrel tribe. We are here to prepare a map of the Eagle Kingdom, as well as information about relevant powerful people, and arrange for people to go and inquire about it. If necessary, we can also recommend a group of soldiers to accompany you. He made a gesture, and immediately someone tiptoed and left quickly. The old witch exchanged glances with the clan leaders and continued to smile. If your partner is interested, you can also fight with tribal warriors to estimate the strength of the Eagle Kingdom warriors. As for how strong our totem gods are, this requires a grand sacrifice to communicate with them. Greet sighed secretly, turned to the high platform, and slowly walked up surrounded by the great witch priests. Climbing to the highest point of the four-story mound, a large number of warriors were already filing up, carrying the patients of the Kestrel tribe, and walking quickly towards the temple. Oh, I can't take it off. Greet shrugged and went to see the patients. Remove disease and remove disease patted the heads of patients with mild symptoms one by one. Just after one round of shooting, there was a sudden noise behind me, and the ground shook. Gretel suddenly turned around and saw a warrior wearing hard cowhide armor and a horned helmet coming out of the crowd and walking straight towards Bernard. I am Hardig, the wild bull warrior of the Buffalo tribe. He hammered his shoulders hard and hit the cowhide armor with his fist, making a muffled sound. I once fought against the White Eagle warriors of the Eagle Kingdom, no matter the outcome. This morning, the warrior you defeated was my brother, and I want to challenge you. Without a word, Bernard untied the big bone club. The month-end sprint is complete. There will be more updates tomorrow and the day after tomorrow as promised. Everyone remember to continue voting next month. The guaranteed monthly pass at the beginning of the month will continue to be reserved for me. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, and ask for all kinds of things. Thanks to Ed who loves to eat cauliflower for children and gave me 500 starting coins. It's not that difficult to open a hospital in another world, right? Author, Geoland 2020. Chapter 943. Bernard and the bull warrior Hardig each held weapons, stood facing each other, and turned around at the same time. 1 step, 2 steps, each taking 10 steps outward, and then turning around at the same time. Go out and fight. Gretel shouted in time. There are so many patients here. Wherever there was a patient still lying down, there was a ping-pong fight. Besides, Bernard's big bone and the bull warrior's big axe, if they were to fight against each other, the noise would never be lower than that of blacksmithing. It was only at the end of the shouting that he remembered that he was not the master. The coda dropped an octave, and I looked left and right. You have a martial arts arena, right? 7 or 8 great wizards gave him kind smiles. Bernard walked out of the temple carrying the stick. In his busy schedule, Gretel threw a secret eye and chased after him. While treating him, he watched the live broadcast. The so-called martial arts arena is an open space in front of the temple, and there is not even a door separating it from the interior of the temple. Maybe samurai fighting is also a way to please the gods. Gretel thought this way, and saw the two warriors pulling away from each other, kicking on the ground, charging forward, and colliding with each other without any tricks. There was a loud noise. Gretel bared his teeth and felt his forehead buzzing. Alas, are you really forging iron? Boom! 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 The ice and snow shattered under their feet, one by one, flying in all directions, hitting the people watching the battle around them. A young soldier was caught off guard and his face was scratched. He said ouch and his face immediately started to bleed. No one at the scene cared. Even the young soldier who was pulled behind just wiped the blood on his face and continued to stare. A bone club higher than a human head and a long-handled axe kept colliding and bouncing off. They looked like they were evenly matched. The bone stick chops, smashes, swings, and pokes, the axe chops horizontally, vertically, diagonally, and upwards. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, the two sides were indifferent. The Mania warrior suddenly roared, swung his axe twice, and jumped back. I want to ask for the blessing of the buffalo god? Whatever means you have, you can use them as much as possible. The secret eye turned, and the figure of a young shaman priest appeared in the light curtain. Greet quickly threw out the last 2 rounds of remove disease and walked out quickly. When Bernard saw him coming, he waved one arm and shouted, "No. I'll do it myself first." The barbarian bull warrior stepped forward with his right leg, leaned down, lowered his head, held an axe in both hands, and assumed a charging posture. 3 steps away from him, the young witch priest took out a silver horn, brought it to his mouth, and blew hard. Woo! A low roar, like a cow's roar, spread throughout the martial arts arena. Greet subconsciously turned on the detection magic and saw a faint black light spreading from the horns and covering the body of the bull warrior. The muscles of the body are enlarged and the skin defense is increased. These are all basic configurations, Gretel silently assessed. In addition, through meditation vision, one can also see a group of dark light attached to the body of the barbarian bull warrior, extending forward, with 2 horns protruding on both sides of the axe. What is this for? Gretel secretly guessed. And the barbarian bull warrior Hardig had already charged forward again, bang, bang, bang. The first few steps were nothing, but when he took the last step, the ground shook violently. Gretel narrowed his eyes subconsciously. In the vision of meditation, circles of ripples flew out from the feet of the barbarian bull warriors, were transmitted through the earth, and directly hit Bernard. For a moment, the aura on the barbarian's body became a little chaotic. Isn't it? War trampling? It's really, very suitable for the blessing of the buffalo god. Taking advantage of Bernard's confusion, the long-handled tomahawk smashed towards Bernard's head and face. At the critical moment, the barbarian roared suddenly, and his whole body was shaken. The human figure in the meditation field of vision burned like a flame. The black light and ripples were bounced far away at the same time. Bernard held the stick in both hands and struggled to move up one level. Boom! There was another huge earthquake. The battle axe bounced high, circled, and swept over like a wheel. Still half a meter away, a pair of curved, horn-like shadows suddenly flew out from both sides of the axe, one on the left and one on the right, stabbing Bernard's chest and back. "Careful! Careful!" Greet and Sirera blurted out. Greet had already clasped a protective remote shot in his hand, ready to throw it at Bernard at any time. However, the barbarian did not dodge, and a bright light suddenly rose from the head of the club, and he looked up to the sky and opened his mouth, making a roaring gesture. The Mania warrior paused on the spot and tilted his head back slightly, as if he had been hit by an airwave bomb. The bright light roared and jumped down. In an instant, Bernard's tall body was enveloped by the shadow of a wild beast. The pair of horn-shaped phantoms hit the beast's body and immediately bounced away. The beast turned its head sideways, bent down slightly, click, click, bit into two horns, and chewed them like shortbread. Bernard, on the other hand, had already danced the bone stick like a windmill, forcing him forward with great momentum. Compared with before, his strength, speed, and even his ability to tolerate pain have obviously improved to a higher level. If he had just entered the 9th level before, now he is comparable to a 10th level warrior. Autonomous madness. A low, surprised voice came from Mr. Valensimo's mouth. He looked left and right, then walked towards Gretel in small steps, and asked in a low voice. "Boss, this follower of yours has mastered independent madness. And can you also use the beast's soul?" Greet spread his hands and shrugged. "You have mastered it a long time ago. If you haven't mastered this, according to old Morgan, he is not qualified to venture into the new world." Mr. Valentino was silent. Soon, Bernard relied on the power of independent madness and beast soul to defeat the barbarian bull warriors steadily. Finally, the chief of the buffalo tribe came out personally carrying two bone clubs. Chiang! The two bone rods crossed over the chief's head and locked Bernard's giant bone rod. The great chief nodded and smiled. "Dear warrior, you have won. You have proven your strength. Your strength can already be compared with the strong ones among the White Eagle warriors. Even the Golden Eagle warriors can't compare, right? So, how many Golden Eagle warriors are there in the Eagle Kingdom?" "The Golden Eagle warriors are the most powerful warriors in the Eagle Kingdom, and their power and reputation spread far and wide," the chief replied without hesitation. "There will always be only 12 Golden Eagle warriors blessed by the God of Eagles who can use golden spears. One person, one spear, and a pair of golden wings. No less, no more. What if I die?" Raised from the White Eagle warriors. As long as the grace of the Eagle God lasts forever, the power of the Golden Eagle warriors will always exist. A warrior given by God. Or are warriors with specific powers based on artifacts, or magic items? Greet couldn't judge for a moment. But the key is not here, but when you really want to fall out with the other party, how much power you can use and whether you can defeat the other party. Gretel looked around. "Do you have any warriors at the Golden Eagle level?" The chiefs laughed. The chief of the Kestrel tribe stepped forward and held his head high. "I myself can compete with a Golden Eagle warrior. There are two powerful warriors in our tribe who can compete with the Golden Eagle," the leader of the Buffalo tribe replied calmly. The Black Panther tribe followed. "Although our tribe has a small number of people, we can still find two powerful warriors. Moreover, our Black Panther god can kill two Golden Eagle warriors on his own without any problem." Black Panther god. Gretel was surprised. The god of nature, the goddess of spring, the god of war, including the Redstone tribe, White Birch tribe, Reindeer tribe, Beaver tribe, and other gods he saw along the way, none of them had personally taken action. At most, When the priest prays, the corresponding magic is triggered, like a vending machine that stores the power of magic. In fact, like the reindeer tribe, they raise one every year and kill one every year, and they can also grant magical powers to the tribe. Greet was very surprised. If it were him, he would definitely refuse. The buffalo god just now also gave strength to bless the warriors. How strong is it? Can it come out to beat people in person? Gretel. Well, he hasn't seen it in person anyway. So, what is your Black Panther god like? Can it come out to fight? What other gods can come out to fight? Gretel asked sincerely. As he asked, he took turns looking at the several great wizards, especially scanning their heads. Ah, who can summon the gods to give him a look? It would be best to summon the gods to fight for him. Well, I'm afraid the latter is more difficult. If he hadn't encountered a war between tribes, he probably wouldn't have been able to broaden his horizons. Dear guest, as long as you come to our tribe, you can meet the Black Panther god. The great shaman of the Black Panther tribe took a step forward and bowed gently. During this period, he has been leading our most powerful warriors to resist the invasion of the Plague Maiden. He is really inseparable. We are gathered here to find a way to resist the plague so that more warriors can join the battle. Go in. So it is. It's a powerful Black Panther in the nearby mountains and forests. It has been enshrined by us for many, many years. Well, it turned out to be a real mythical beast, no wonder it was able to take action directly. Gretel cast his expectant eyes to the side, and the great witch of the buffalo tribe shook his head slightly. Our buffalo god is a sacred white buffalo. When we were trekking in the wilderness and couldn't find our home, he suddenly appeared and brought us to this fertile land. So you keep it enshrined until now? Gretel asked with his eyes. The great witch of the buffalo tribe looked proud. Whenever we put on its cowhide, wear a helmet made of its skull, and beat the war drum with its leg bones, it will appear in response to our call, granting fertility to the fields and courage and strength to the warriors. Well, you win. So are you taking the route of detaining animal souls and offering prayers? Gretel had a lump of old blood stuck in his throat, and he didn't know how to vomit. The only thing he could think of was the old scalper in the cowherd and the weaver girl, who asked the cowherd to kill it and then put it on the cowhide and fly into the sky. Behind the crowd, the great witch priest of the Dahi tribe walked slowly and made a few gestures silently. In an instant, a stream of sparkling water rose from behind him. Amidst the sound of rushing water, the roaring water column condensed into a vague human shape. Our god is our first-generation clan leader. Back then, the river flooded, roaring, and was about to submerge our settlement. The clan leader threw himself into the water, and the water suddenly stopped on its own and retreated to the river bed. After that, he merged with the river. As one, we are always protected. In several crises, he drove the river water and drove away the enemies. If the god of plague really comes to our tribe, our gods will definitely fight him to the death. Very good, totem gods, ancestor gods, mythical beasts, you have them all. It's a new month. Give me the guaranteed monthly pass quickly. Please subscribe, ask for monthly tickets, ask for recommendation votes, ask for book reviews, ask for all kinds of. Thanks to the Strong Sea Monster for the 5,000 starting coins reward.